All right, welcome to the Save Our Golf Podcast. Another week with Dom and no Derek. Everybody's asking where Derek is. I don't know where Derek is. He's somewhere doing whatever Derek does on Tuesdays when he's not with me. However, we are joined by Jason from Istruzi. Um, Istruzi is a really cool app that right now is only on iOS, but I know he's working on bringing it to the Android folks. Um, so luckily, we all know that I'm not an iPhone person. I don't know if that's common knowledge or not. I got a promotion at work and they're like, here's an iPhone. And I was like, oh boy. So I was able to use the app. Super cool. We'll talk about it because I had a really easy going time once I understood what was going on. Um, Also want to give a quick shout out to my boy Nelson, Tacos at the Turn. I got my Taco Tuesday shirt on. I don't know if Nelson ever actually like watches the YouTube stuff, but like it's Taco Tuesday. I have my Taco Bell. Nelson's a great dude. He also sent me the first new tacos at the turn hat. I don't know if you follow him or if you've seen these at all, but these are sweet. It's like a blue paisley and it's a trucker. Perfect for summer. So if you don't follow Nelson, give Nelson a follow. Um, but this episode's all about Jason and Estruzi. So Jason, welcome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Estruzi, what it is, how it started, kind of the goals for the future?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Dom. It's a perfect lead in. There's a probably quite a few places we can start. But the genesis of the idea came about during COVID. Um, the half-hearted joke I say is like I, along with a couple other million people, decided to get golf lessons in COVID because there was nothing else to do. Along with the multiple million that decided to pick up golf or like get back into it. Like golf grew more in COVID than any other 10-year span in its history. You could debate whether that's a good thing, grow the game, shrink the game. Everybody's got an opinion on it now. But I was one of the people that got a lesson because I needed to get out of the house, and golf was a great way to get fresh air and get some sun and do something different than sit at home. So like COVID was unfortunate for a lot of reasons. This was a positive. I got a lesson from a coach who was at the time I was living in Washington D.C. Got a lesson up from a coach who was in the Gaithersburg, Maryland area, and got a package. And like, we're not going to talk about like what we did in the lesson. Ultimately, we achieved what we wanted. Like, I wanted to drop 10 strokes. We did that in the season. Total success. But what I came to realize was like the player coach relationship and interaction, like genuinely hasn't changed a lot since I was a junior golfer. Um, Plenty of text messaging, plenty of emailing, or nothing at all is still a common occurrence with coaches and players. Um, and thought that there was a way that like that could change. The first idea I actually had was not the idea that Estruzi is today. The first idea, funny enough, was like just in time coaching. The thought
Hmm.
process was like if you're on the course and you're consistently struggling with a hard slice right, and you just can't figure it out, and like you're getting frustrated, like you could ask your buddy to take a video of you, upload it to a marketplace, and a coach would like you basically put a price tag on it, and a coach would bid to respond uh, to give you some feedback. Um, there are a lot of holes with that idea I came to learn because like, we ran it by a handful of coaches, and they were like, I see what you're doing, but like I don't actually think that's good for the player to learn. First of all, like that multiple coaches giving potentially different pieces of information on how to fix something could be really bad for a player's ability to learn the game, which was one very clear piece of feedback. And then the second one was at the end of the day, these coaches are in lessons all day. Like they don't have time to reply to this stuff, and it's quite a lot to ask them to be like on call. Is essentially is what that platform is doing. Uh, so that turned out to be a blessing because we turned those conversations into like true like market research. We would ask a bunch of questions and only ask questions and try to refrain and like keep ourselves from um, solving problems on those conversations. It was 100% about to learn. And out of all those conversations during COVID, Istruzi was born. Istruzi is the culmination of the annoyances, pains, wishes, troubles that all those coaches talked about, and some of them they didn't say. We had to read between the lines after we learned more and more about their business. But Istruzi is the culmination of all of those hundreds and thousands of hours of conversations and just listening.
Yeah, I like it better than the marketplace idea. Um, it's a little bit less clunky, I would say, because that marketplace, yeah, I mean, I never would have thought about it that way, but yeah, different coaches, different advice. I totally see how that's an issue. Um, I've never had a coach per se. I've always asked people for advice, and yeah, it's the same type of thing. It's overwhelming. There's a lot of different advice out there. Um, Shane from OB Golf Co. He's been on the pod a couple times. He got me to finally like overlap my fingers because like I can't do the interlock. I feel like I'm just going to throw my club. So he taught me to overlap, and that fixed the contact issue. But then like I had another coach tell me I hold the club like for lack of a better word, a little girl. And I was like, oh. So I got to tighten up
That'll
my
get your attention.
I was like, damn, okay. So yeah, I mean different coaches, different advice, right? But so what you did is super cool. Um so I used it. I didn't It wasn't given to me. I actually paid the money and I really liked it. You set me up with your coach, correct, Michael? Or just a
So
coach?
Mike is one of the coaches on the platform. He's not the coach that am referring to when I was in Maryland, if that's what you're asking.
Got it. No, I didn't really know what I was asking. I remember you just said, "Yeah, go to Michael." And I was like, "Sweet, I'll go to Michael." Um Type in their name, super easy to find, and then you click book section. So the cool part is I'm doing it as we're talking just so I can walk through it. So what I did was I did the cheapest option so I could upload a video of me swinging, which thankfully we just got back from our shindig week, so there's a ton of footage of me trying to hit a golf ball. Um, so it's $10. It's a 15-minute type thing. And you just pay through Venmo, which I know we talked and it was kind of goofy how it was set up to where I kept getting an error. And I was like, well, no, I would really like to pay him. Um, but eventually we figured it out. I typed in his name, I paid him. Super cool. And for $10, I feel like it was definitely worth it. Anyway, so what I did, took a video of me swinging and I just hit an absolute dart on a par three. Like super proud of
Mm-hmm.
that shot.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in the back's going wild. Ah, work
Yep.
for him. Super good. I dropped it. It was like 4 feet. The video doesn't show it, but it was like 4 feet. And I was like, let's go.
Love it. Hell
Um,
of a shot.
Dude, it was fantastic. And I couldn't see because the sun was right in my face. Um, Shout out Jordan from Odin for always being the little iPhone holder guy. Um, Trimmed it down to just my backswing through the shot. Um, Basically I submitted it and then he got back to me in a couple days. If we go through what my lesson was, he was saying I have a more compact swing, which I know I do. Once I get past a certain point in the backswing, I get scared and then don't know what to do. So I've just decided to shorten it so it's a little less, in my mind, less can go wrong. In reality, it's golf, so everything can go wrong. Um, he's like, yeah, you have a John Rahm type swing. I love the contact. And I love the swing, but he's like, "I want your hands to be a little bit more by your head, and I want you to be angled a little less towards the ball." And I was like, "I never thought about that because that's the one thing that always freaks me out when I'm playing golf. I don't know where to stand. Like I like it's so dumb, but it's true. I don't know where to stand. I always feel like I'm too close or I'm too far." He was saying I was bent over a little too much, which again, never thought about, so I'm very happy he said something. He said the one thing I did do really well was my hands kinda laid naturally, and he's like, "That's really good because a lot of guys kinda force their hands a certain way." And in my mind, I was thinking, "Well, yeah, it's kinda just what feels right, right? Like, it's kinda how the golf swing should work." But the one thing I don't know, he's like, "Yeah, it came off the toe," and I'm like, "The ball dropped, like, right by the pin, so I don't." To me, it was a good shot, but I'm happy he pointed it out nonetheless. But the cool part and thing I took away from this whole thing, not to keep going on and on, um he pointed out stuff that I never would have thought. And I don't know if it's like a software you guys use, but he was able to like draw lines and everything. For me, that's super helpful. So now that we're playing Monday, I don't want to talk too much about it. Because I'm still in shock. I can kind of take that information and directly use it on the course now. And if I forget, it's a video, so I can always just pop it up on my phone, watch the
Hmm.
video. Um, it's like a 7 or 8 minute little speech from him. Um, Otherwise, I know what you also recommended was I could like FaceTime him and like, swing a little bit, like a range. Um, I didn't have time this week. I didn't have time last week either. I worked for like 50 plus hours and then they're not too happy with it, but training. So there's all sorts of really cool ways to do this. So um maybe if you want to break down more, like maybe stuff I missed. But so far, at least from what I've used with the uploading, super easy. It was super fun too. Other than me not being patient, which is just kind of an issue I have. But
Well, you were getting used to an Apple iPhone in the process as well, so there was a little bit more of a barrier there.
well, yeah, and like so like I use like a note or I'm sorry, this is the S23 Ultra. And like they gave me like the smallest iPhone. So like I'm trying to like I'm used to this. And then they're like, hey, use this. I'm like, this thing is tiny. So it
Yeah,
takes
in
me forever to like
comparison.
type on it. Um, but it was super cool to be able to use the app. I know initially we talked about Derek doing it, but then when Derek got busy, I was like, I don't know if he'll be able to do it. Luckily, I somehow ended up in a new position and got an iPhone. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, the timing there could not have been more fortunate. That was great. I mean, it was really good that you got an opportunity to experience it. And the one part that you referenced there about how Mike drew lines on the video, so that is our embedded swing analysis tool that we specifically only made available to the coaches. We talked a little bit about this, and ultimately we agreed and got some feedback from other coaches that like if we gave a swing analysis tool to the player side of the partnership as well, we could find a scenario where players are trying to like analyze their own swings, which is like asking someone who like doesn't know how to tie their own shoes to tie their shoes. Like it would be like the blind leading the blind. So we decided that like that's a coach only thing. So you the best part about the whole experience was like you got great feedback, you got plenty of things to work on, and you got to see the entire platform from a player side of things
Hmm.
because of Mike's ability to reply to you with the in-app video and messaging. He saved it right back into your session. Um, and now all your information is saved right there in one spot. It's really easy to get to, like you said, for the future.
Yeah, and I guess it's a good thing I did it because I think I took more from it than Derek would have. And I'm not saying Derek is like perfect, but between he and I, he is dramatically better. Like I had the round of my life and I shot an 87, and Derek like didn't look like he tried and shot an 80. So like that's just kind of the difference between he and I. Um, so I think I took a little bit more away from it than he would have. So I'm very happy I was able to try it. Um, and for $10, like come on. Like I don't know how much better feedback I could have gotten for $10. So definitely appreciate it. I don't know if Michael's gonna listen, but I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. So I probably would do it again if I have issues, but I'm definitely gonna work on raising my hands a little bit higher. He said something about my wrists, so I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. And maybe I'll stand a little less weird. I don't know. That's something I'm gonna have to work on still, but definitely good feedback. I was very happy and very surprised because I wasn't sure how the feedback was gonna be. So watching, he basically like synced over my video with his swing stuff, and I was like, "Oh man, I do that." So it was super cool to see it from a coach's point of view versus like my buddies going, "Oh yeah, you did that wrong." It's like, well, that's not helping me. How do I fix that?
Yeah. Yeah, now you know who to listen to. And the best part is like you said, like you got it forever and like you can work on his suggestions in pieces, like work on one thing at a time and like take a video of yourself and then upload it and be like, "Hey, here's what I've been working on. Is like, how does this look? Have I made it? Have I made progress? Like the platform allows for organic, long term like relationships that you and your coach can build together.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, like golf is wildly demanding and difficult. You're gonna
Oh,
like the best players in the world need coaching weekly for the rest for their career, right? It's like you can constantly always evolve, and it's great to have a second set of eyes that you can trust over a longer period of time.
well, and I think building on what you said, I think it's better to have a neutral set of eyes on something like this because obviously I play with Derek all the time. Derek's going to tell me, "Oh, you lifted your head," or "Oh, you did this." Well, that's stuff I always do. Derek's never going to point out, "Oh, I think your wrist snapped," or "Man, you should get your hands higher." I'm like, "Well, I don't know what that means." This is a great tool to get a neutral party, a fresh set of eyes, and someone who's not really going to sugarcoat it. That being said, it would have
Hmm.
been super hilarious if he was like, "Man, you just suck." And I would have been like, "Thanks." He did say overall it was pretty good, and I was like, "That's pretty good of me. Go me," because I've been kind of working on that for a long time, retooling everything. But um, it's definitely a cool tool. I never thought about doing more swings, working on that, and then uploading another video. I might have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like you need to work on like think of it as building a house, right? Like a golf swing is multiple individual parts or components that need to be stacked and built on each other after the foundation has been built properly. Um, and like the thing I've learned about myself, like going through swing changes, uh, like I have to like when I'm at the range, I have to focus on one at a time. So like when I was I have a coach down here in Charleston now too. And the first thing that we worked on was like I wasn't turning enough, but like you described in your backswing, like you had like a quarter swing back. So like I wasn't turning I was limiting my turn both with my hands and my upper body, and like that subsequently meant that I like wasn't turning my pelvis at all. So we the first thing we worked on was just like me getting comfortable, like turning my pelvis by lifting my hip back and up, because like that's the easiest and quickest way to like get extension through your backside. And like that's the
Mhm.
only thing I worked on for a week. And I would go to the range a couple times a week when I had spare time. And like that's the only thing I'd work on. And then like I'd see the coach in like a 2 or 3 weeks, and like he'd stack on another thing that would go on top of that, like because he knew where he wanted to get ultimately. He was just doing it in segments.
Yeah, I think that's cool too. I grew up playing baseball, so for me, the hips and pelvis stuff is super easy. It's just like swinging a bat. For me,
Mm-hmm.
once I get my club above a certain point, something in my head goes, "Don't," and then I'm like, "Well, no, I gotta swing at this point." So it always come down like a V, like, and I'd always chunk it or I'd pull up, and I found that if I did it something a little bit shorter, it came through a little bit smoother. The face was just better, and the swing plane was just better. So every so often I'll go up a little bit more. So it's definitely a different process for me,
Mm-hmm.
but it's something that I'm like, well, if I could shorten my backswing and become more accurate, why don't I start there and then kind of work my way up? So
Mm-hmm.
I found myself sacrificing distance for sure, but I'm like, if I'm more accurate and can set myself up for the next shot better every time, that's going to make myself a better player. I don't care if I hit the ball 350, 400, could not care less because if the rest of my game sucks, congrats, I'm right back where I started. So I definitely have buddies that bomb the ball, but then they can't chip or putt. So pick your
Mm-hmm.
poison. So something like this is really cool. Um, how are you kind of marketing this? How are you getting coaches involved? Do you have like 1,000 coaches like for everybody, or is there like 10?
Yeah, so the first part of the question, so I've tried like okay, how are we marketing? How are we like onboarding and finding coaches? The way I look at it, everything in this phase is an assumption that needs to be tested. And what I mean by that is like what we've only been in the App Store as a paid app for 3 months. We've been in multiple phases of beta and multiple phases of like Apple's got their test flights, which is their version of like a beta test app. We also, way back in COVID, we built what's called a no-code app, which is just drag and drop uh, uh, forms and stuff like that on a web page to create an app-like experience. Um, so we've been through multiple phases like before we got here over the many years during like the middle part of COVID. So the way that I've kind of gone about trying to find coaches is I've done everything from like paid advertisements. I've done everything by looking for local golf coaches that I can find on Instagram or send direct emails to. And I've noticed that podcasts tend to be a really favorable platform to being able to talk about the platform, the app itself, in a long form format. Um, and what I did last week was the first time we did this as well. So Istruzi was the sponsor of the Low Country PGA Teaching Summit down in Hilton Head at Carlton River Club. So that was a great day for a lot of reasons. One, I got to spend an entire day with 30 some coaches here in the area, got to know them a little bit more. There were multiple coaches who came to present their portions and like share their expertise. So this is a great opportunity where coaches are coming to learn, like they're coming to be exposed to new ideas and new things. So there was a great opportunity just to like get the word out that way. And start essentially in my own neighborhood, like start local, start with the people that are geographically around me. So that was a great experience. I had a portion of the day where I got to also present and speak and kind of walk through the journey that we've had and the purpose of Astruzi and the value that we're looking to deliver. So like I said, everything right now is just me testing assumptions, trying to figure out like what's the best method uh, to 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 help these coaches understand what the platform is, but also to show them how the platform can be valuable to them. And right now, like we have still single digit coaches that are on the platform. Each of those coaches though have 100 to a couple hundred players. So from a pure scalability perspective, we're very quickly already testing limits of scale, um, because these guys are bringing obviously their entire portfolio of players to the platform when they can.
Oh, for sure. And like we kind of pointed out, there's different ways to use the app, whether that's FaceTiming, doing like looks like there's like a range session option, or even just doing what I did. Somebody happened to film me swinging and upload it. Like that was the easiest, and then I don't have to talk to anybody. I can just upload it and go about my day. Super
Yeah,
easy. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I mean,
The
there's
part that
no.
we found is real interesting is like these coaches, the platform gives these coaches the creativity, but also the control to take what they're doing physically in their business today and put it on a platform that makes it scalable because it's a digital enabled system. Um, and it saves them time, makes their interaction with their players easier. So they can create as many sessions as they want. You highlighted a couple, but at the end of the day, like they can create as many as they want, and the players book them on their own. It's real time booking, so it becomes really easy for them so that they don't have to spend a lot of time in some low value administrative tasks.
Yeah, and I mean, the best way to learn is just by doing. So,
Hmm.
one of the good things that came out of COVID was all this technology. We're all talking over Zoom and phones and stuff now. Like it's kind of wild. Um, because I really never thought I'd be interviewing people over Zoom, but here I am in my bedroom next to my Taco Bell, and we're
Hmm.
going. Um, it's definitely a cool little platform. Be cool to have some kind of like element to where players could like talk to each other, maybe kind of help each other out. It's like, oh, this guy said this. Maybe it makes a little bit more sense to somebody. Obviously, that's down the line. I did rate you guys as well because I had a good time on it and it was super easy. And I'll probably continue to use it with Michael, assuming I work on those things and get better. Who knows? Um, I'm pretty. I I don't know how to word it. I'm pretty content with where I am as a player. Like I can break 100 if I want. I can break 90 every now and then. But I go out there and have a blast. And to me, that's important. I'm not too bad to where I'm
Hmm.
frustrated, and I'm not great to where I'm frustrated when I have a bad shot. I'm kind of at the happy medium point personally. So I like that. But I like how it's going to help a lot of new people into the game, just like you were talking about earlier, how golf boomed. I think Derek said a couple times here in Minnesota, we have the most golfers per capita, I believe, something like that. And we
Wow.
only get to play 6 months out of the year. Like,
Yeah,
we're
that's
lucky.
something.
Yeah, but I can see this being useful. It's like, oh man, I have a like we belong to a simulator club. Super great guys. Um, you set it up because they have all sorts of recording equipment. You could set it up at the simulator, hit a shot, and then send it to the coach. In theory, right?
Absolutely.
So that'd be super cool. You almost get like live feedback in a way, or you could even book it towards live feedback like that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that's very true.
it's definitely super cool. There's a lot of different avenues this could go, and I was just happy to test it out for myself and get
Yeah.
some feedback that way.
I mean, it's a totally different experience when you get to, like you said, test out for yourself. And you also touched on something that like I deeply believe in, which is like there are a lot of avenues this could go, to use your exact words. Uh, and the way that we have figured out how to like the way that we've leveraged making decisions so far is listening to our coaches. Um, I feel fortunate that like my what I do with my day job, like I'm in sales, and I've learned that salespeople are not people who just talk to you or talk at you until you make a purchase. Like the best salespeople, the truly authentic and genuine salespeople, are the ones that find ways to ask great questions and listen, and don't try to solve the pain that you've just brought to them right in front of them, because that tends to mean that you're not actually listening. So like this has been an extension of that, where like we've actively listened to hundreds of coaches. We've continued to actively listen to all of them who are using it, all of them who have said that they haven't or will not use it yet for their own various reasons, which are all valid and we obviously greatly respect. But there's tons of feedback even in those conversations of coaches who have said, hey, it's not the right time for me for these X, Y, and Z reasons. Like there's learning opportunities and all that at the end of the day ultimately influence like what we're going to prioritize, how we're going to think about building the platform continually into the future. Because ultimately, this is all just a journey on how do we deliver the most value to the coaches that we intend to serve. And like we're just getting started, and the runway is it's exciting, but it's like you also have to like kind of just bring yourself back to reality too. It's like it can be overwhelming that there's just so much opportunity
Hmm.
that could be offered to these coaches to help make their lives better and help them deliver like unique digitalized businesses. It's a pretty fun. It's been a very rewarding and like positive learning experience for me personally too.
Yeah, that's exactly how we feel about podcast. It's definitely a slow burn. It's a slow grower. That's
Yep.
okay. We don't do it to have a million followers overnight. If we wanted to go that route, we'd be doing something else. Um, but some of the I'm blanking. Oh, some of the opportunities Derek and I have had because of this is unreal. Like I can't put into words. So it's kind of along the same lines. Like I totally get where you're coming from. Um, I don't know if I would consider myself working in sales, but I do have to sell things for my day job. I always tell myself if I have to talk somebody into it, it's not for them. You know, like
Hmm.
in terms of like salespeople, like yeah, there are definitely people that could sell you water or could sell a fish water, whatever, right? But if I have to talk somebody into it, it's not it. It's not the right product for them. Drop it, try something else. That's just how I operate as a person. I'll feel bad if I talk someone into it and I'm like, ah, they really didn't need it. But I don't know. My conscience would not let me feel right after.
Hmm.
So one of the questions I had about this, I kind of feel like it's a little bit harder to ask and feel free. Obviously, I paid money, right? Do you get any cut of that? Obviously, you have to have a little bit to help the app and everything, or does them all the money go straight to the coach?
Yeah, Don, this is a great question. So when you paid for your session with Mike, 100% of that went to him. And 100% of those transactions will always go to those coaches. Uh, and the reason we can do that is because the Apple, like the coach pays a subscription that's automated through the Apple subscription process to use the platform. So on the coach side, after they've had their free trial and they choose to continue using the platform, they become a paid subscriber and they have full access to everything. I genuinely believe that there's a very viable, healthy business that allows us to just go that route and
Mhm.
stay out of the coach subscription, the coach payment collection process. Um, there's a, and it should be, it's important to say that like there are really, really, really huge businesses that survive only on being inside of a transaction and making a couple of percentages per transaction. Uh, I have learned a lot about how these coaches run their business and the different agreements that they have between the clubs they work at, the driving ranges that they work at, or the academies that they're a part of. In many cases, these coaches already have to share because of the different varying partnerships and agreements that they have to get into in order to deliver their service. Uh, they already have to share a portion of their session revenue, a per
Mhm.
session basis with the physical location that they're at, which I get and understand, but that doesn't mean that I think ethically that like there another service or vendor inside of their transactions isn't necessary. I think there's a viable business to be had for these coaches paying either a monthly or quarterly or annual subscription, which are our three options.
For sure. Is it relatively affordable? Like, is it like 10.99 a month, stuff like that for the coach? Like, if the coach was listening, y you can give me a range. I don't need to know the exact numbers. I'm not a coach by any
Sure.
means, but
No, I can give you the exact numbers. So the monthly is 68.99 a month. The quarterly is currently at a 35% off right now.
mm,
So it's like a 200 and I think 34 or something per
that's not
quarter.
bad.
And then the annual is also running at 35% off, which comes out to, I think, like 550 something per year. And so another way to think about this too is um, if you think about it on a per lesson basis, a coach has to book one lesson through the platform to pay for their monthly $68. In most
That
cases, like most coaches range between 60 and let's just say $125 a lesson. So all you need to do to pay for it is one lesson a month. These
that's what I
coaches that
was
are
thinking.
using our platform are giving 15 or more lessons a week. Uh, so the value prop to like the right coach, to your point, it's like if we feel like we have to sell someone into it, then it's like not the right fit. Like our perfect coach is an independent contractor who uses an iPhone and has a Gmail account and teaches 15 or more lessons a week and charges $70 or more per lesson. That mix is the ideal perfect scenario because they're exactly who we're building the platform for.
That's exactly what I was looking for. I was hoping you'd be like, "Yeah, if you do X amount of lessons, it pays for itself." That was perfect because you have a chance to coach lessons. I would like it to be like, "Oh, that's not bad." Like, it's super easy. Um, and like for Michael, it was $10 and it was an 8-minute little review. And I was like, easiest $10 you'll ever make, right? Just had to look at my swing a couple times and just boom. So I was hoping you'd break it down. That was perfect.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
that was exactly what I was looking for. I just don't know how to word things sometimes. That's where Derek does a good job. He like writes stuff down. I don't roll like that. That's why he and I are the good like yin and yang. Um,
Absolutely.
where do you see this app going in the next couple of years? Like, are you trying to expand it? Are you trying to add all these different features? Like, what's the goal?
Yeah. So I think the probably the near term things are the one that we're most excited about and the one we've gotten the most vibrant positive feedback on from coaches so far has been automated follow-up on the coach's behalf to their players. So I strongly believe, and I have come to learn that a lot of coaches are on the opposite side of kind of what I'm going to say here. So there's data that shows that it's 15 to 60 times more expensive to acquire a new customer instead of building positive long-term relationships with your old or current customers. So, unfortunately, most coaches operate in a model where they're constantly looking for a new player. And this is slowly changing over, but there's just a lot of old habits that have not been like broadly adjusted yet. So the Astruzi will allow coaches to see the benefit of um, essentially turning over and constantly staying in contact and building long-term relationships with their current and past players instead of feeling like they need to rely on finding a new player to make a living. This is not like atomically a different like mind-blowing idea. I just don't think that the coaches have the platforms and the tools in place to actually do it week after week, month after month, year after year, because like manually or using other tool requires a ton of effort, a ton of coordination, and a ton of organization. And like these coaches that I've talked to are like they're really open that like they're generally speaking very unorganized. So they like need all the help they can get. So this portion of the platform will essentially send a message to their players based off of a couple of characteristics, whether or not they've seen the coach in X number of days, or whether it's been X number of days since they had their last, or X number of months since they had their last lesson. And the platform will send a message to the player just to create dialogue. And then after that, the coach then responds. The coach then creates, responds themselves so that it becomes truly authentic. We're just trying to create conversation and dialogue that feels organic, that feels authentic and natural on behalf of the coaches to help them really just like build long-term partnerships and relationships with their players.
I like that because sometimes people just need like a little push or like a little nudge to remind them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how Facebook like used to poke people. I mean, it's kind of that way. It's like, hey, it's been 3 months since your last session. Would you like to book another? And they could say yes or no. Like, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably what you said. I just said it simpler.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like that. That's kind of fun. Um, but yeah, no, I really like it. And the more we sit down and talk about it, the more I think about ways that maybe I want to use it again or do a follow up or do this or that. It'd be cool to have like a directory of the coaches too. I don't know, maybe that's asking too much, but like you could like scroll through and be like, "Oh, he seems kind of neat," and pick him. I don't know, because obviously you set me up with Michael. Didn't know what to do, to be totally honest. I was like, I don't know any coaches or anything like that, so maybe like a little directory.
Well, so Dom, this is actually a really interesting topic, and something I'm actually very passionate about. So, because I am not a golf coach, I don't follow or don't feel I need to follow the PGA guidance or teachings or like ways of doing things that a lot of these coaches do because for better or for worse, they've grown up inside of the PGA association. Like all these coaches were extremely good junior golfers. They all played at a very high level of amateur. A lot of them played professionally, whether that means they made it to the tour or some other version. Like there are very good golfers that have been in the PGA association in some way, shape, or form for their entire life in some scenarios. So like this is all they know, and me being from an outside perspective just doesn't I'm not exposed to any of that. So where I'm going with all this is uh coaches have unfortunately started to use and have been um, marketed over the last decades to use marketplaces, because marketplaces are seen as a quick and easy way to find new players. Now, if you just go back to what I just said about our automated like player portfolio chat messaging, like we're trying to buck a trend, we're trying to break a trend here because
Hmm.
coaches think they need to always find a new player, so they think marketplaces are a valuable asset to their business. In one point in time, they may have been. But the truth about marketplaces is, and this has proven itself over and over again with Lyft, with Uber, with Amazon, marketplaces are extremely viable and extremely profitable businesses for the businesses who run them themselves. And they're great for consumers, but marketplaces have a diminishing return with every new uh, coach who comes to a marketplace because it decreases the person's purchasing power, it decreases the uniqueness, it makes it more difficult for them to stand out with every new coach that comes to the platform. Which, if you take a step back and you ask, okay, well, uh, marketplaces wouldn't exist if coaches didn't use it, right? And the answer is yes. I mean, it's like they're creating the value. The coaches create the value by coming to the marketplace. The coaches create the demand. Without the coaches, there's nothing. Like you would just go to a marketplace and a whole bunch of players would just be there. Like, like talking like babies, like they're just gonna be like having fun, like yelling at each other, but no one knows what they're doing, kind of thing. So like, and this all gets summarized to say, like, Istruzi is not a marketplace. Never will be. Istruzi is a business management platform for golf coaches that protects their business, that makes it unique, and that builds value around the intellectual property and the expertise that they've spent multiple decades, maybe 30 or 40 years worth of time, and it protects that. And it
Hmm.
keeps it inside of their control and power instead of giving that to a marketplace or instead of giving it to a Struzy. Like we're not levered, we're not valuing, we don't benefit from like the effects of marketplaces off of coaches and their expertise. The coaches are the ones that will because they get to use the platform to deliver better experiences to their players, make it simpler for themselves, and save time and hopefully spend that elsewhere.
Yeah, I have to like sit back and like take all that in, but I appreciate you saying all that because I think it's a great way to explain what it is. It's kind of like when I posted earlier and you're like, "Hey, can you word it like this?" I was like, "Oh, that's better." Like I appreciate that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, I couldn't say it any better, so I'm glad you said it because I would sit here for like 10 minutes trying to figure out the words.
Well,
Um,
here's the easy way, Dom. I was actually going to the PGA show in Orlando, and I got I think it was an Uber or a Lyft. Yeah, I guess it doesn't necessarily matter. From the airport that I had to go to the convention center. And this dude, we just got talking, and like organically on his own, we just got talking about how much he makes off the ride that I was like that he was driving me on.
mhm.
Uh, and ultimately, it came down to the fact that like of the total price, he was going to end up making 10 or 15% of that entire number. Uh, and like I was just like this is proving my point. Like the marketplace, like if that driver wasn't going to drive, then no one would come pick me up, right? It's like they're the ones that are coming. And they feel obligated to be there, but like they're getting screwed, royally screwed.
Mhm.
Uh, so he and I had an agreement where it's like, dude, I'm going to be here for the next like 3 days. I know I'm going to need a lot of rides. So like, give me your cell phone number. I'll text you. I'll give you a reasonable amount of time about where I'm going to be, and then I'll just pay you Venmo direct. It's like there's no need for the marketplace. Like once I knew who he was and like I got his phone number, it's like we took the marketplace out because I valued his service. I valued what he was bringing, and I wanted to make sure he got as much as he could.
That's crazy. Because one, I didn't realize that they only made 10 or 15%. Like that is ridiculous. I thought they'd make, a good amount. I didn't realize they only made that amount. Like that is wild. So look at you toppling the patriarchy, as the young kids say.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I don't know. I feel passionate that like we live in a world where like technology it makes life easier in some ways, but the power of technology is often uh, stuck with the people who wield it, like people who make it, the businesses who run it.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of benefit and there's a lot of like just there's a lot of value in being transparent about something like this.
It's
Without
kind
these
of like,
coaches, there's nothing.
yeah, it's kind of like social media too. Like social media is such an interesting tool, right? Like it can definitely be used for wrong, and it has been used for wrong in plenty of cases. But there's
Hmm.
also a lot of good that comes from it, right? Like you and I sitting here talking through social media. Like that's how we
Hmm.
linked up. A lot of the people I know when we went to California, social media. Like I never would have met any of those people. So it's kind of the same thing. Technology is in such a weird spot, especially since COVID, now that we're all using it more often and having to use it more often. A lot of people work from home now. A lot of offices don't necessarily
Hmm.
need people, but you're definitely right. Without the coaches, not a whole lot going on with the Struzy. It's golfers yelling at each other to do this or do that or keep your head down or look that way or whatever. I every time I always picture Derek yelling at me because I used to pull my head all the time, and this is not a knock on Derek, but he'd yell, "Keep your noggin down," and I was finally like, "Shut up, quit yelling at me." And he's like, "Well, keep your head down." So maybe you could have golfers yell at each other and they would fix it, but I doubt it. Um, but I don't really want to talk about the app anymore. I want to talk about you for a little bit. Um, what's your golf game like? Like, what's your handicap? What do you shoot? You're pretty good. You beat me.
Yeah, yeah, this is a fun one. So my handicap before I got lessons was, I don't know, like near 20, near 15, so like
Mhm.
ranges in there. I consistently was shooting like high 90s and the occasional plus 100 round. And after getting a package of lessons, we got that down to low 90s consistently.
Mm.
And now since moving to Charleston and continuing to get more and more lessons, like I'm now consistently in the mid 80s. And for the first time in a really long time, I broke 80 about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Oh,
Uh,
hell yeah.
so it's been fun. I mean, my handicap's now down to like an 11, 10 point something to an 11
Mhm.
is kind of where it's hovering right now. Um, and like all that's to say, like there was a point where I got too serious about it. Like your comment about how like you're really happy with where your game is right now. Like you're really happy that like you go out and have fun. There
Mhm.
was a point at which I was not having fun, and it got way too much about my score. It got way too much about like the very small portions of my game that I was really unhappy with. And I realized there was two things I realized. One, I realized that I didn't keep a there. I didn't play around that I didn't keep score. Like I didn't just go out and have fun. Like
Mhm.
I didn't play a game. Like I didn't do a best ball or like some sort of group game that like I wasn't I couldn't keep a score. It was only about like how can I get my score lower, and it became way too tactical. It became way too numerical. It just it took the fun and enjoyment out of it. So that was one that I realized, and then I was playing with a friend of mine I play every Tuesday with down here, and he's like, "Look, dude, like Jason, I'm retired. Like I'm out here to have fun. You seem like you're really like getting on yourself recently. I think you need to kind of tone it back a bit, especially if you want to play with me, because like I don't want to deal with it." Is essentially what he was saying, and like that really like when someone kind of point blanks you like that, you're like, wow, okay, like but I didn't know that this was this outward. So I had a self reckoning. I was like, I need to have fun again. I need to learn how to have fun again. I need to learn how to like enjoy the game and make it less mechanical and make
Mhm.
it more like about feel and that kind of stuff. And um, it's like it's a journey, but it's been fun. Like I'm back back enjoying it. It's and just love being outside and playing.
To me, that's what it's all about, especially here in Minnesota, because I mean, it'll snow in like October. Like it's not unheard of. Like we had a blizzard on Halloween before I was born. It happens. Um, I definitely relate. I had a buddy who I have a buddy. He's not dead. Um, all of a sudden just took it way too seriously to the point where it's like he's like smashing his clubs around if he hits a bad shot.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not fun to play with you. And I have not played with him a whole lot since. And that is not because I don't like him as a person, but like when he plays golf, it's just like you're too into it, which there's nothing wrong with being into it. But like, oh my God, you're not going pro. Take it easy.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
We're weekend warriors.
yeah, at some point, you just have to sit back and be like, this is not it's not my career. I do this for fun. And
Sure.
for me, what I'll do is I'll work in like there's a par three course Derek and I like to play. We'll work that in and not keep score. We'll just focus on hitting the ball and, chipping and stuff like that. To me, that's what keeps it fun. Or I'll go play like 9 holes by myself, just like a small executive course, whatever,
Hmm.
and just kind of work on things. That way, when I do play 18, if I hit a bad shot and go, okay, can work on that later. We're not going to do it now.
Hmm.
We're just going to have fun, right? Um, Also, I play with Derek probably the most out of all my friends, and if I get kind of frustrated, he'll go, "Do you want to just drop by me?" And I was like, "Sure." The game's already hard enough. Let's make it a little easier on me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't keep track every time. I make Derek do it. That way, I don't have to like do the math in my head. Derek does it all for me.
Yeah, it's always good to have a friend like that. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, he's definitely been the one person who I don't even know if he'll listen this far into the pod because he gets kind of distracted. So I'm gonna say it. He's one of like the few people whose like advice I value when it comes to golf because I know he does it to better me versus just doing it to feel some kind of sense of pride. He's said that I'm one of the most coachable people he's ever met because he'll tell me to do it and I'll do it. Like I'll do my best anyways, but um definitely one of those people who just tries not to get mad on the golf course. Like it's fun. We get to swing around golf clubs at a white ball. Like what's
Yeah.
not to love? And if it's a beautiful day,
Yeah.
it's a plus.
Right. And even if it's not, like you're still outside, this is the funny thing I have with like my friends. My friends always joke, it's like, Jason, every time we go on a golf trip with you, it rains. And I'm like, okay, I mean, that's just part of the adventure, dude. Like
Yeah,
when else do you go outside as a grown adult and hang out in the rain? Never.
you don't.
Like and as kids, we used to do it all the time
Oh
because you
yeah,
didn't care. And now everyone wants to stay inside when it rains. Like you don't want to go out and get wet. Like okay, it's like 2 hours of our day, and like your clothing dries, and it was a different experience. Like that's really what it comes down to.
yeah.
Um,
I'm not gonna play golf with you because I don't want to golf in the rain. So we can take that off the
fair,
table.
fair enough, fair
Um,
enough.
but yeah, it's like what better way? It's like you could have a bad day on the course, but it's better than working any day of the
Absolutely,
week.
yeah.
Like I basically took a week off work and we played a bunch of golf in California and I was like, God, the store could burn down right now and I wouldn't even care. Like you're sitting at Half Moon Bay looking at the ocean and all the hills and everything, you're just like,
Puts it in
I could die.
perspective.
Yeah, I'm like,
Hmm.
this is beautiful. I had a ton of fun. Um, and I somehow broke 100 and that kind of just around in my life where it was just like super scenic. I was with a great group of guys.
Yeah.
Derek wasn't yelling at me to keep my head down. Um, I cannot describe it enough. It was beautiful. But one thing we always ask on the pod, if we visit you in North Carolina, right? North or south?
South Carolina. Yep.
I was close. I had a 50-50 shot. I'm like, I know we said Charleston, but I don't remember which Carolina that is. Um, we visit you, South Carolina. What's one place we have to eat?
Oh, this is a phenomenal question. My fiance and I love food.
I
Uh,
love
so DC, we spent 10 years in DC. Actually, sorry, it's more like 8.5 years.
close enough.
And yeah, uh, DC is a sneaky, really good food scene. So we started dating in DC, and like our dates would always be at restaurants, and because we kind of fell out of like the binge drinking fad of our everyone goes through that probably in some part of their life. We fell out of it. We turned all those moments or those hours into going to restaurants and enjoying really good food. And DC has like both a very like high quality of food, but a very
Mhm.
wide breadth of options because it is so multinational because of the people who work there, come visit there, blah blah blah. So like we've come to really appreciate food because of DC. Charleston has phenomenal food. Not nearly as wide of a variety, but the quality is just as good, and the use of local ingredients seem to be fresher. So like it's been really fun to like experience a new city down here. Um, so I mean, I have a lot of answers for you. Let's try to put it into like a nationality of cuisine. Like where do you what kind of food? What cuisine? What nationality?
Oh God, don't put me on the spot like that. I didn't expect the question to be flipped on me.
All
Um,
right, here. How about I give you a couple options? All right. So if you want Thai food, there's a place called
mhm.
Thai Basil. Thai Basil's phenomenal.
I love
Uh,
Thai food.
Thai food's phenomenal.
So
If you're looking for good, um, how do I consider it? It's like comfort food. Like, and I'm not talking like
soul food.
fried comfort food. I'm talking about like wholesome, like
Hmm.
will fill you up no matter what kind of food. Uh, Berkeley's is phenomenal. They make all their stuff from scratch. They do great chicken parm. They've got great Philly cheesesteaks. They've got great chicken parm subs. They do phenomenal salads. They got great hummus, salmon. Like they rock it across the entire menu, and it's a really chill vibe. Like you sit outside underneath their outdoor awning. Really good. Uh, and if you're looking for some like Mediterranean food, there's another place that's near us in Mount Pleasant, um, which we really like, that I'm now blanking on. uh, and then there's obviously plenty of seafood. So 167 Raw is a phenomenal seafood spot downtown.
Mhm.
I mean, dude, there's something for everybody. My fiance's get her birthday. We're gonna go to a new Italian restaurant called Sorelli, which
Hmm.
opened up probably only a couple months ago. Our favorite thing for like those types of restaurants, because it's hard to get reservations, we like just to walk in and sit at the bar.
Oh, sure.
So there's food for everybody here. It's so good. I could have you guys busy for a week going to different places.
So it's not the worst thing in the world. Um, Final question. I'm in a group chat with a bunch of other people on Instagram, and they're all, Instagram accounts, social media people, whatever. Um, I've come to realize that we all call the clubhouse something different, and I've realized that some people are very right and some people are very wrong. So, you go to the whole nine, at the turn it's 10. Derek and I call it the clubhouse. I realize that some people call it the halfway house, and some people call it something even weirder. What is it called where you're from in DC or Charleston?
Yeah, so this is a tough question because what if there's two buildings? What if there is the main building? I won't
Hmm.
name it yet. And then what if there's a smaller building that has the snacks that keeps you closer to the ninth and tenth hole? They serve two different purposes.
Interesting, because a lot of the ones here are just connected.
Ah,
So like
okay. All right.
I'll give you an example. My favorite golf course is up by my cabin. It's called the Wilderness at Fortune Bay. There's the clubhouse. That's what I call it. It's a clubhouse.
Uh-huh.
Attached to it is the restaurant, which you can order from and eat on the patio at the turn. Like literally, you can sit at hole 10 and watch people just muff their drive on this massive fairway. Um, and it's one building. It's connected. Um, the only one I think is separate is at Giants Ridge up here. There's like a little. It honestly looks like a little outhouse you can order like hot dogs from.
Uh-huh.
Um, to me, I don't consider it anything. It's just kind of a little hot dog stand for me, even though I'd rather have a taco at the turn. Ah,
Yep, there it is.
ah.
Great work. That was slick.
But I call it a clubhouse. And to me, that's what it should be.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I I, I don't think I really don't think I've ever called it a halfway house.
It's weird, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't like that. That's here in Minnesota, we call a halfway house kind of like a rehab type thing.
sure, yeah, yeah.
It's like to me, that's what it is. When it's a halfway house, I was like, who is addicted to something? Like golf, I guess. But
Golf, yeah. I mean, there's
yeah,
plenty of golf addicts out there.
yeah. Um, but yeah, no, something I was like, I wonder what they call it in South Carolina or DC. No, it's a clubhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, halfway house my ass.
That
Stupid.
was
Well, geez,
stupid.
it's dumb, but it's all I got for you. Thank you for hanging out for the past hour-ish. I guess I don't know
Been
how
a
long it's
pleasure,
been,
dude.
but looking forward to seeing what Istruzi comes up with and how it grows as a platform and as an app. So I'm excited to see where you go in the future, and hopefully, I next time we talk, you've boomed a little bit, added some more features and stuff like that.
Well, thank you, Dom. I appreciate you, brother. You've been very hospitable. It's been really fun hanging out with you as well. I'm glad I got a chance to know you a little bit, and I look forward to continuing to get to know you better over the next couple of years.
Yeah, we'll do it with Derek next time. We'll have Derek try it out, see what they say about his swing. Um, but yeah, I try to be nice to people. I'm like really dry as a person, which I realize some people love because Derek's a little bit more like animated, lighthearted. I'm just I'm very blunt, unfortunately. So it is what it is. But I had fun, so I hope you did too. We'll definitely reconnect down the road though.
Sounds great, brother. I appreciate you, Dom. Have a great rest
Uh,
of the evening. I'll talk to you soon,
absolutely.
buddy.
Absolutely, yeah. Have a good night.
See you, buddy.
See ya.